Welcome to another episode of Mzansi Unicorns. My name is Teddy Kuzwayo, and today we are joined by the CEO and co-founder of Flexclub, Tinashe. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Teddy. Good to be here.
I always thought Flexclub was a gym. And I don't know how you even came up with Flexclub. So, and I'm not sure if our guests think the same way. But I mean, welcome back to South Africa. I understand you just landed from Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm. That is where home is. Well, it depends. Physically,
Yeah.
but in the heart, home is always here.
Okay.
But yeah, I travel to South Africa very regularly. A big part of our business is here, and good to be in Joburg, reconnect.
Yeah. At least your accent hasn't changed, right?
No, I don't think so. It depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Some people get confused in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Are you from the UK?
Oh, really? Yeah. And what do you say?
You're American.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No. You could clearly hear the South African in me.
Have they ever heard of South Africa? Maybe.
Yeah. So they're let me just say, those with paler tones, they're exposed a lot more to that. And so some folks even say, do they even have black people in South Africa?
Oh, imagine.
So that's fun. But yeah, no, it's always good to be back home and remember the roots.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you on the show. And I'm just very curious at this gym that you run.
So the story around Flexclub, I totally get it. It sounds like we're talking about flexing muscles. And it's something we realized after the fact. But the concept was essentially, we had a basic idea trying to combine two concepts. One, that access to a vehicle needs to be flexible.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're not flexing a vehicle.
Correct. Although you could.
Yeah, I know. That's true. That's true.
Which is another feature of our platform and the product.
Yeah.
But the other is that we wanted to create a sense of membership and belonging, this community, and hence the club. So combining the two, this community that believes in flexibility as a way of life. A multitude of reasons why you'd want to optimize for flexibility.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to represent in the brand. And the domain was free.
Okay.
That's how it came about.
Yeah. And when did you start the business?
So originally in 2019.
Okay.
So it's conceptualized while I was still working for Uber.
Ah, okay.
And that's sort of
so
where
you're moonlighting.
Just don't tell them.
Conflict of interest?
No, none. But look, I think my experience at Uber gave me an interesting vantage point to see how mobility is evolving globally.
Yeah.
I always say that was the greatest education of my career.
Yeah.
It was sort of a shortcut to going to the Ivy League without having to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
I got exposed to a lot of interesting, trends, waves, different markets, and got conviction that there's an opportunity to approach mobility differently in places like South Africa, which is obviously very close to home. I had a very real memory of the rigidity of how we access cars in South Africa. Vehicle finance is the default.
Yeah.
No one questions it.
Hire purchase.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hire purchase with the residual.
100%.
Exactly.
And that's another thing.
For the car that you flex.
The balloon. Exactly. Yeah. The balloon payment is also sort of the default way that the auto industry advertises. And so you'll always see the 3,999 on TV, but when you unpack it, especially those that maybe have a deeper financial acumen will appreciate that it's the worst thing you can do if you're trying to build financial equity as an individual.
Yeah.
Basically digging yourself into a hole. Anyhow, so that experience kind of gave me conviction that there was an opportunity to develop flexibility initially for the Uber driver. And that's how it started in 2019. But that's no longer the story. The story is very focused on flexibility for the consumer in South Africa. A fun stat that 3 million people apply for vehicle finance in South Africa every year.
3 million?
3 million.
Wow. And that TAM can't be much bigger than that.
Yeah, look, so what's interesting is how much of that demand is actually served. So the custodians of the vehicle financing gates, the hire purchase gates, will only let 30% of those people through.
I see.
Everyone else gets bounced
For approval.
And even then, there's obviously drop off on who once you're approved, who actually goes ahead.
Exactly.
But that gives you a sense of, and that's used cars and new cars. So it gives you a sense of the unmet demand and the scale of that unmet demand.
The 70%, basically.
Exactly. And that's why I just fundamentally believe that there had to be a different way of doing this. Also taking inspirations from the way other products or commoditized products have evolved in South Africa, specifically telco. I think if you're a student of history, business history, it's a great story to celebrate as South Africans. Just the innovation around pay-as-you-go and prepaid, and how pioneering South Africa actually was in the mid-90s.
And please call me.
100%.
Yeah.
So there's a sequence of innovations that have really come through very strongly, and for me, that was a great way to draw design inspiration. And so today, our focus is, through the flexibility lens, is on pay-as-you-go. So instead of airtime, you have drive time. And so you top up your account, and it's now evolved to a point, if you think about telco and prepaid, even the affluent are opting to have a prepaid SIM card. Would rather have control over that budget versus, let's have an all-you-can-eat contract.
Well, you get locked in, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
There is the 24-month
sometimes
lock-in.
you get it over a phone.
Yeah.
I mean, like right now, personally,
Yeah.
iPhone 15 Pro, God bless its soul.
Yeah.
But I'm all about Huawei. That Pura 80 is something else.
Really?
But I'm locked in.
Right.
And so I need to wait another year.
So I think therein for us was, at least thinking from first principles, an opportunity to rethink the design, how we've architected this ecosystem. How did we get here? And once we started questioning why, we then said, well, let's try a different design. And as that evolved, we then started building out our pay-as-you-go network for mobility, which is Flexclub. And so you'll notice that our language is very similar, or at least for those that will visit our website, we'll see that our language is very similar to telco. Join our pay-as-you-go network. You're a subscriber. The plan that you're building, the experience is intended to be as simple as just topping up, adding more credit into your wallet. And if your situation changes, your plan changes, you can just take the car back. We don't own the cars. And so for, I guess, the South Africans will appreciate, I think our ambition is really to be Cell C-like.
Cell C.
Cell C-like.
Okay.
I guess, let's just say Cell C 2.0, because there's a lot of question marks around Cell C 1.0.
Okay.
But historically, Cell C owned its infrastructure, the towers, and they got a ton of debt.
Hence the MVNOs.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now Cell C is infrastructure light. Cell C rests or sits on top of MTN and Vodacom. We as a network sit on top of Avis and Budget currently, but the ambition is...
So you don't compete with that?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it depends. Obviously, it's just different channels, but ultimately to the same infrastructure. So if you're a Cell C subscriber, you're still going to ride on MTN or Vodacom at some point in your journey. And I think that's the way we've approached the market. But then secondly is building a network on top as a third party. So we also now power Avis subscription, which is a separate network that's built on our platform. We have our own network, which is Flexclub, but it's all resting on the same platform. And the ambition now is to enable any consumer brand, any employer brand to build its own vehicle network, pay-as-you-go network, because we think that this is such a meaningful part of the South African consumer's wallet. Case in point, what we see is 8,000 Rand on average, 8,000 Rand a month is spent by a subscriber on any one of our networks running on our platform. If you compare that to prepaid cell phones or cellular, average revenue per user is 80 Rand.
80
per month. So, if you're a bank, an insurer, a retailer, and you say, I want to launch my own MVNO to drive engagement, you could do that through an 80 Rand per month product, or you could do that through an 8,000 Rand per month product. Certainly your importance so there's a consumer's mind is fundamentally shifted. And I think we are seeing a broader shift towards flexibility across all spectrums of the economy. So we have folks that could get vehicle finance and just say, I don't want to be locked in. We have folks that already have vehicle finance and now need a second car in the household and say, I don't want more debt. And they choose to subscribe and create plans. And then, of course, we have those that couldn't get vehicle finance to begin with. The 70%, the 2 million plus people. Those are the people that the network and the concept is looking to appeal to.
So you don't compete with Uber at all then?
No.
And that's not Uber's model.
So that just happens to be I think our intersection with the Uber story, for starters, my own career. Secondly, at some point in our journey, we attempted to create, these subscriptions for Uber drivers to subscribe for a week and have that flexibility as an Uber driver, with clarity and avoiding the risk of exploitation, which is still a very real one. The majority of, not just in South Africa, but in many emerging markets, an Uber driver would rent a car that they find on Gumtree or OLX or
really?
WhatsApp group or Facebook.
So they don't necessarily own the cars?
The vast majority of them don't. Correct.
Oh, really?
I guess I challenge you to ask the next Uber you're in, ask the driver, do you own this car? And I'm willing to bet. Chances are he'll say no. Someone else owns it and I pay a weekly fee, and that can be structured in different ways. Okay. So that was the ambition, considering it was familiar to me. The evolution, however, through COVID, obviously it forced our hand to some extent to explore consumers. But then we discovered that, on your point on TAM, this is a much, much bigger TAM. There are tens of thousands of Uber drivers in South Africa, but there are millions of people in South Africa that need flexible access to a car.
No, that ratio is just ridiculous.
So I guess we chose to just challenge ourselves and hunker down and try to build a solution for that audience. So far so good. I think we've got something really compelling, but it's still very much an early stage technology business.
How big is the club?
So in broad strokes, we say thousands of subscribers, tens of thousands have created accounts, thousands are active as subscribers, so they actually have a vehicle in their possession in this very moment. Okay. One of our fun stats is we have a new subscriber activating a plan every 5 hours. So that's now picking up. The velocity's picking up. The ambition for us is, of course, to capture a bigger share of the opportunity. We're only just scratching the surface. If I'm telling you about millions in the TAM and thousands in the active user base. But an important stat also is we expect to be processing hundreds of millions. We're already processing hundreds of millions on an annualized basis in top-ups.
Rands.
Okay. Through the platform. And obviously, the more networks that choose to build on our platform, the bigger that becomes. I think we're pretty clear now and convinced that this is a massive opportunity for other brands to start now building their networks.
And what cars do you have? I personally am looking for a car. I don't want to buy one, but I want a G-Wagon before I turn 40. So I don't know if that's something that's available. You're nodding your head, so is it?
Yes. So
okay.
So the interesting thing about building on top of someone with existing infrastructure is that they have incredible depth in terms of the fleet, the mix. So someone like Avis and Budget, or the group that owns it, they are the largest rental fleet in the country. Largest market share. The variety is also expansive, from G-Wagons to a Renault Kwid and everything in between. But obviously there's a very different cost dynamic there.
Yeah.
While available, we think that it makes sense for us to focus on everything between a Renault Kwid and a BMW X3. Okay. So on our network right now, whether you go on Flexclub or whether you go on Avis subscription, you can build a plan for a Renault Kwid or for a BMW X3 and a host of vehicles in between. The BMW X3 is on our top end currently, and that's 30,000 Rand a month.
30.
But again, appreciating that it's fully flexible. A lot of folks will think, but if I compare
30,
that...
that's more expensive than a brand new one. Is it? I don't know.
Well, so this is an important point, is that what we've discovered is that consumers don't think about their cars through the lens of total cost of ownership. You kind of think about, what's the installment I have with the bank? That's where it ends.
Yeah.
But what's actually your cost on insurance? What's actually your cost on maintenance and every ancillary cost that you might have related to the vehicle? When you measure, exactly. Also, obviously, we don't do anything. We can't abstract the petrol costs away.
Yeah.
But when you add it all together, for some makes and models, on the network, the total cost of ownership is actually cheaper if you were to subscribe. But for a BMW X3, sure, there's going to be a marginal premium for this level of flexibility. But if you were to rack up, all the costs, you'll be surprised what the delta is in terms of that cost. So I think it just comes down to a personal preference, what your use case is. Because for some, it's, hey, I'm going to be in Cape Town on a project for 6 months. It makes sense for me to just commit to this, and I'm always on the move. For others, it's, I want something that is mine. I actually like the idea of changing cars every year. So all the cars on the network are new. They get replaced when they reach 1 year old. So you're always going to have that. We like to see you always have the new car smell. And they get replaced every 35,000 kilometers. So the other thing about the network is that it is completely hassle-free, without burden, the convenience. If something breaks, something goes wrong, you literally pop into one of 76 locations across the country and you swap it. That level of convenience is unrivaled. And I think we've really focused now on deepening that differentiation on the experience side. For starters, this is the fastest way and simplest way to get a car in South Africa. So if you're umming and ahhing and you're like, but this dealer said this and the other dealer said this, instead of that back and forth, you could just build a plan and go pick it up tomorrow. Go pick up the car tomorrow.
Really?
It's that quick.
Okay.
Again, nationwide coverage.
But what about credit?
Yeah, so there is that. It's pay as you go. So it's pay as you go. So it's prepaid. There is a deposit that you also, on your first top up, there's a deposit that you need to pay.
2 times, or I don't know.
Exactly. So typically 1.5 months is what you'd expect. But we don't determine the pricing. The pricing is determined by the underlying, host network. And the ambition is to now allow other fleets to become part of the infrastructure. I think that's something we feel very confident will continue to grow.
So tell me again, who owns the cars? Is it Avis and Budget?
Correct.
Okay. So right now you've got, those are your 2 sources of vehicles.
Correct. I mean, that is our equivalent of Vodacom and MTN.
Oh, I see.
To take that Cell C analogy.
Okay.
But like a Cell C, we have our own direct-to-consumer network. So you as a consumer can come subscribe for a car through Flexclub.
Yeah.
But we also we can power anyone else's network.
So how do you aim to grow this platform?
Yeah, I think a big part of the growth opportunity is around enabling other brands to build networks. I think therein is a significant growth opportunity, at least in South Africa. But the other, of course, is looking at geographic expansion beyond South African borders. We don't think that this concept of mobility as a utility or more commoditized offering that you access is uniquely South African. That applies to, in fact, the concept of a car subscription actually was born in, call it the developed market. Developed. So there are a number of car subscription products available in countries like the US and across Europe. The approaches of some of those car subscription products has been very different, where they've chosen to go deep and raise debts, go buy their own cars, they manage their own cars. We kind of call them neo-leasing companies. So they would maybe look to operate more like an Avis or a Budget. Our approach is very much enabling brands to leverage the existing infrastructure, the existing fleets that already exist. And I think there's a massive opportunity to expand that. I mean, just to digress for a little, last year I had the privilege of getting into a Waymo, which is Google's autonomous vehicle, product. So I held like literally no one inside the car. And that's when it kind of dawned on me that the ecosystem here is changing. There's going to be a separation between those who own the infrastructure, so who own the towers, and there's those who enable networks to connect to the towers. Then there are the networks themselves. So I think there's even more proof that mobility is going to become a networked experience. So you can imagine, I don't know how long, because there's regulation that needs to be solved for autonomous vehicles to hit South African roads. But let's just say you can imagine a future world. I don't think it's anytime soon. Certainly not. Certainly not.
Yeah.
But at some point in the future, we can say, whether that's 10, 20, 30 years, who knows? But at some point in the future, it's expected, considering the experience that some Americans are having now, their network of vehicles roaming around, robo-taxis, autonomous vehicles, that are accessible to you because you have a plan and you just hail it and you jump in and off you go. And your consumption is based on use. Whether that use is prepaid or whether that use is postpaid, doesn't matter, TBD. But again, just like telco. So even things like energy, utility, power, same thing. Historically, postpaid. You use the network. Now, prepaid. Again, even affluent consumers choose to have prepaid electricity, maybe for different reasons, but because you just want a lot more control over your budget. There are obviously still more consumers that ideologically are just so committed to owning a car, because there's this misconception that owning a car is somehow a way to build equity. It's, from a finance lens, it's absolutely not. It's not an asset, first of all. It's depreciating at a rapid rate.
Well, the moment you drive out that
100%.
Done, 20%.
And if you think about the cash burden required for you to get that car, depending on your credit profile and your risk profile perceived by the bank, say, well, look, you're a little on the edge. We need a 20% deposit or a 10% deposit for you to get this car. And depending on what your appetite is in terms of cars, let's just say 400,000 Rand. That's 40,000 Rand you now need to outlay upfront. The way to think about this, if you're trying to build wealth, trying to build equity as a consumer, is what else could I have done with that 40,000 Rand? Where could I have put it? And I can tell you there's certainly better assets than a 10% deposit into your car. That's number one. Number two is on the exit. So the vast majority of South Africans would say, yeah, I saw the ad, it says 5,999. Read the fine print, and they always hide it in very, very fine print. This assumes a 35% balloon payment, a 40% balloon payment. So now you take that 400,000 Rand car, let's just say 40%. There's 160,000 Rand waiting for you in 6 years. And you're driving around saying, I own this car. You absolutely do not own that car. You are renting the car from the bank. And in 6 years' time, you have to say, okay, bank, I've got my 160. Can I now own it? That's what's really happening. But the market, the industry does not communicate that way. So there's some nuance. And again, that 160,000 Rand in 6 years, is that going to be the best place to put your money? My favorite story, again, classically South African, is Capitec. Sort of look at the genesis of a Capitec. The growth of your investment in Capitec, if you invested in whatever it is that they listed, 2001, 2002,
10 Rand, something like that.
Was faster, was more rapid than the growth of Amazon, Netflix, Google, everyone on FANG over the last 20 years. Exactly. So I think that's the right way to think about asset building, wealth building, is what's the opportunity cost of your cash? Whenever you get cash, where should you put it? And now because you're so obsessed with this concept of ownership, you're going to do everything to throw money into a car, say, oh, it's mine, I own it, when in reality you don't. And now you're sort of haggling over the minutiae of, well, it's going to cost me 7,000 Rand if I subscribe versus 6.5. I'm just making that up. It depends on, obviously, again, make and model and what plan you're building. I just think it's a different way of thinking about how you're building wealth as a South African. We need to be very critical about that. And I'm not saying that just for self-promotion. Of course, we'd love for more consumers to subscribe for cars. But this is true also for businesses. Right? As a business, why are you taking your hard-earned cash flow and pumping it into these assets? that are depreciating. They're a means to generating your revenue, a means to generating your income. I think that there's so much scope, back to your question on growth, for us to then even extend into that. How do we enable business mobility networks? So whether you're an SME, you need 3 buckies. Are you now going to bend over backwards to make sure that you meet the criteria from the bank to be approved for vehicle finance and?
I mean, if you're just starting out.
Sure. So if you're just starting out, subscribe. So I think this is such a, I think it's an economic catalyst. That's what mobility is. And there's so much progress we can make if that's just a default. Think about the economic impact of everyone having telecommunications, everyone having electricity. I think this is that fundamental. It could transform the way businesses operate, transform the way consumers access economic opportunities. I mean, one of my favorite testimonials on our network was a young grad who got a job, no means, what the finance industry calls thin file, no means to access credits, never done anything wrong, never defaulted, is not blacklisted, just hasn't taken credit to prove to the banks that he's worthy of having credit. Interesting dilemma. But the job, 60 Ks away from home. Sure. So imagine if the answer was, sorry, you can't take that job. It's not practical for you to catch, one taxi there and this and this and that. Where now his testimony is literally, you changed my life. I got the job and I'm off to the races. That for me is like one small example of what's possible here. Look, there's a lot more work we need to do to make this simpler, make it easier, make it more economical. But it's a work in progress. You eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Tell me about your expansion plans, though. You said growth outside of the country. Is that something that you guys have done already, or you're looking at doing? So a different version of our product had. So when we were still focused on the Uber driver, which we were up until 2020 and COVID forced our hand to reconfigure, we also had our product in Mexico. Mexico?
Correct.
Okay.
Specifically in Guadalajara, most people would expect us to say Mexico City. But my co-founder at the time was from there. So both of us having this Uber background, we had traveled to, both markets. So we had an appreciation for the similarity and parallel between South Africa and Mexico. I mean, a little side note, but I loved when, I forget which Black Panther it was, and they kind of had sort of the Latin American, flair versus Wakanda. The two tribes, it was like Tolokan. Okay. The Tolokan and the Wakandans. Yeah. Kind of showing this like parallels between Latin Americans and Africans, exploring in an interesting historical way that's obviously not factual because it's just fantasy. We already at that time were like, this is actually what it feels like today. There's some cultural nuances when you're walking around Mexico that you're like, this kind of feels like home. Like our families, we interact like this. We respond. Our hospitality is built around food. I mean, I'm digressing a little bit, but we just felt beyond the sort of cultural parallels and societal parallels, there are also these economic parallels. Same thing I described. The Uber driver can't access a car, is renting informally from someone who's better off. That was definitely the case in Mexico. And that's why we decided to build the product in Mexico, but then also extend. The ambition was to extend into other emerging markets that had similar characteristics. We sold the Mexican business in 2023 after discovering that there's a massive opportunity for us to really double down on the consumer in South Africa. That segment of the population was growing a lot faster in terms of switching over to this subscription mindset. Was growing a lot faster for us. But to answer your question, the ambition is and remains for this to be a global platform, a global proposition. The vast majority of our investors, we are a technology business. I guess the sort of clues in the name of the podcast, unicorns. We aspire to achieve these outsized outcomes, but we are venture backed. The vast majority of our investors, venture investors, are foreign. And of course, they wouldn't be backing us if they believe that this is something that's limited to just the South African market. The depth here is achieved by expanding this concept, this technology, to more geographies around the world.
So is that why you live in Amsterdam? That's from a shareholder perspective, or?
Look, I would say that was like not necessarily accidental, but I was optimizing for a number of different things at the time. The world has changed quite a bit since 2019, which is when I was piecing all of this together. I was working for Uber in Amsterdam, which is sort of the Europe, Middle East, Africa headquarters. Okay. And I was actually leading the team that creates vehicle partnerships with car rental companies, leasing companies, banks, car manufacturers. Okay. And I guess I had built an affinity for that market. The access it provided logistically also unlocked a different way of thinking. That's why I say Uber was definitely my greatest education for a number of reasons. But from Amsterdam, I could connect to anywhere in the world relatively easily. And especially if the story I was telling was one that needed to resonate with a global investor, I needed to be in front of them face to face at a moment's notice. Being in South Africa, it's a lot more complex. Something as simple as trying to travel to the US from South Africa. You're going to lose, if you're fortunate to go direct, you're going to lose 17, 18 hours just trying to do that. I mean, it's so logistically, that's one piece. But maybe to your point on the investor side, there was a lot more comfort from global investors investing in a foreign structure. I think we were still evolving in South Africa around how we think about IP and sort of the tax implications. I mean, not to kind of go into that minutia, where there are frameworks in the US and in Europe that are tried and tested. It's easier to convince a global investor to deploy capital if we align to those best practices.
And why would a global investor invest in South Africa out of all markets? I mean, they could go anywhere.
Well, so that's the thing. The story wasn't that you're investing in South Africa. The story was South Africa is so uniquely positioned to test and experiment with this approach to technology, because it is, for better or worse, it's two worlds in one. They're very clear characteristics of our country that, I mean, people always say, you walk through the streets of Cape Town and you can be forgiven for thinking you're in Europe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you go to another part of Cape Town, it's like, whoa, what just happened? And then it's like, okay, this now we're talking. This is now not Africa light anymore.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a...
But it somehow works.
Right.
In a way.
It does.
Yeah.
But I think that's for me, that's the secret sauce of like the tapestry we have here is special. So you can either see this as a curse or you can see this as an opportunity. And I think our narrative was, it's an opportunity because we've been around the world. We've seen it through different lenses. We can build technology and prove that it addresses different parts of these two worlds. And if we can prove that, we can export that or those insights, that learning to other markets, whether those insights apply to the developed side of South Africa or the developing side of South Africa. And that was a story that resonated with global investors at the time. The tide has shifted. So 2022 in particular was the beginning of the tide shift. But in the tech world, there's a reference to the ZIRP era, zero interest rates. So free money in the US. There was a lot more. Let me say there was less restraint around deploying capital in bolder ways, and that just meant we had to be more prudent with how we think about building in South Africa. So accessing capital wouldn't be as simple as it was in 2021 as a default, but it's still a big part of our ambition now. Like I mentioned, is if you invest in us now, you're not investing us because we're in South Africa. You're investing because you think we're tinkering with something that could be a material unlock if we get it right. And we're going to keep chipping away in South Africa to give you proof that there's something here. And I think we've done that, but obviously there's a lot more to do.
So at what point do you feel you're now ready to expand again?
Look, it's always a trade-off. I think the toughest thing for startup founders is focus. There's always a new shiny toy.
Yeah.
It's the gift and the curse. Once again, look, I think we'll know when we know, but we need to have conviction that we've got significant depth. There's significant scale, and we have stability in how we've thought about our platform design. And we're not disillusioned about that. And so I think for the foreseeable future, we're just doubling down on the South African market. Look, you always think about, or you always assess opportunities as they come up. So if someone said, hey, listen, we think this is brilliant, this will be brilliant in Brazil or wherever else, we must consider the opportunity and afford it the right time. But I think it's unlikely. But we'll know when we know to then broaden our ambitions beyond South African borders. The other thing is, there is, again, going back to the point on TAM, there's so much depth. It's like someone trying to tell you about the holiday house they're going to build when they're like home is like falling apart, or like the kitchen hasn't been renovated yet, and you're like, I think that's the way I kind of feel about it is, hey, like my home needs to feel like it's solid. There's a strong base, and then you think about like what next, where else. Never mind the other categories of opportunities. Like I mentioned, we're on consumer right now. There's a massive opportunity in business. Over 700,000 small businesses in this country.
Really?
The thing is, the opportunity here is significant. I guess you don't need to look very far to find the clues, right? How do you get a Yoko? Why can a Yoko achieve such scale? And I think we're very sharp to identify the insight that small businesses in particular are poorly served, because the other custodians of point of sale, if you will, are focusing on a different demographic and a different opportunity. I think we feel similarly about mobility for businesses. So my co-founders now with this new product have a background in SME lending as well. Exited their business to Retail Capital, which was acquired by Time Bank. So have an appreciation for the opportunity in that segment. All to say is a very long-winded way of saying that I think we can keep ourselves busy here for a long time.
What made you go to Amsterdam to begin with? Just as a South African working in Joburg, fairly comfortable environment here, and then you just pack your bag and leave, and then you come home again. That's quite a story.
So I think generally, as a philosophy, if you will, I already come to the appreciation that I learn best through periods or phases of discomfort. Those are my greatest teaching moments. And not to say I was comfortable per se, but I knew that the idea of going into Europe and being the leader of a team in Europe when I've never operated in Europe, it's like, what, are you crazy? You know nothing. You're going to be a massive imposter, a fraud. But let me just test whether that's true. Can I learn quickly enough to be competent? And that's why it was I had other opportunities to go into or go down different paths locally.
Locally
in South Africa at the time. So I moved at the end of 2016.
Oh, okay.
So at the time, I think when I had the discussion, obviously at home, you have to discuss this with the missus. It was a massive ask as well, at a personal level, asking your partner to give up their career path locally and say, look, this is a bet. I don't know if this is going to work out, but I need to know. Otherwise, I'm always going to regret not exploring.
Yeah.
And then I got the other side, and I was pleasantly surprised just how competent we actually are relative to our global peers.
South Africans.
100%. I mean,
Really?
I obviously I talk about my personal experience.
Yeah.
I think I was going there thinking I'm going to discover this world of innovation. They think about cars and fleets and mobility in like ways I could never imagine. And I was saying things to them like, what? You could do that? I'm like, no, we have something as simple as tracking, telematics.
Yeah.
We have over 40 tracking companies in South Africa.
Plenty. Car track is just one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, also that was interesting. The car track founder is now $1 billionaire.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so for me, our familiarity with something like tracking, it's not a deeply familiar thing to the European consumer.
It's so easy though. When I say easy, it's like it's a conceptually. Then again, we also have a lot of hijacking. So
I was going to say, but
innovation comes from situations, right?
This is that tapestry I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You got these two worlds. This is like bleeding edge technology, but maybe prompted by things that we're less keen to celebrate.
Yeah.
But I think so. Those ideas that we take for granted, that we have, and you suddenly go into a different environment, and the appreciation of those ideas is received in such a different way. More and more, that's just like one example, but more and more encounters like that through my sort of European career then gave me the conviction and confidence that I shouldn't think small. There's an opportunity for me to take the gift of learning that South Africa has given me to understand what are the global opportunities.
Yeah, and I suppose realizing that you actually a lot better than your peers that side. It's one thing for your investors to invest in South Africa, but you also chose South Africa as your primary market, which is quite interesting because, I mean, you know the opportunities here, but you went overseas and then you came back. Yeah.
Look, one of my favorite quotes, I actually never know who to attribute it to, but that...
Just claim it. Say it's you. Okay.
The best entrepreneurs hate risk. And risk is a function of unknowns. Unknowns, they're basically a series of variables. And when I was thinking about where I could be, applying my thinking, applying my ideas, if I think about the market variable, that choice, South Africa is less of an unknown to me than saying, you know what, I think I should launch something in the UK. I think I should launch something in the US. While I was exposed to it, it was superficial. And that's why I thought, let me go to an environment where I've attempted to reduce the number of variables. And even the expansion back then, in the early days of our business from South Africa to Mexico was, well, my co-founder knows Mexico like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
He was born and raised he was raised in Guadalajara. He knows that like the back of his hand. So all these choices were very intentional because we were trying to mitigate risk or reduce the number of variables. And that was really why it was a no-brainer for me to figure out South Africa. Look, of course, on the other side of the coin, it means you must accept a high level of friction in some areas. But again, it depends. You have to kind of decide, are you glass half full or the opposite?
And you're all in.
Well, I mean, you have to be an optimist. You have to be. Otherwise, why bother? Why bother? I mean, I think so. For me, I kind of just think about this. If I think about the broad arc of my life, whenever it ends, if I think it's a Jeff Bezos thing, but the way you think about these big decisions is minimizing regret. If you try to fast forward in your mindset as you reflect on a big decision, whether saying no is something you'll regret in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, then don't say no. And everything I've done is I actually just want to learn. I just want to see what's behind the door. As long as no one convinces me that the door's not worth opening, I want to see. So I guess I've developed comfort now. Like it's just it's a motion in the way I think about the world, the way I think about my life. This is not just about business. It's about everything. Are you curious? Are you a student? And my wife knows. I say I never want to not be a student. And if I'm not a student, then I'm in trouble. The minute I become an expert, I'm in trouble. So especially like now, think about what's happening with AI. And it's funny, my mom, she's very involved in the church, and we're discussing what to do with the church website. And I was like, have you considered like ChatGPT and these tools? She was like, what? And then, okay, what do you want to do? And literally voice prompt in. But that blew her away, where now there's a new search engine or search platform, Perplexity, AI search platform that's really taking over the US, I guess globally. And now my mom is the most avid, she's over 70. She's the most avid Perplexity user. So she's having conversations. She's like, the guy was here to fix the geyser. He said something to me I didn't believe him, and I asked Perplexity, is it true that in South Africa, a geyser, that if the geyser bursts, you must do, and then out comes a response. But therein is, I think for me, validation that you should continue to ask questions, continue to be a student, because the world is going to continue changing. You're not going to stay in the same place, even if you want to. The world is moving forward. But yeah, all a long way of saying that I enjoy, probing, poking at the world and seeing what happens.
I mean, to that end, what have been some of your biggest challenges in poking the bear and opening doors that are locked, and then opening doors that may be open somewhere else?
Figuratively speaking, I've lost limbs. The bear has it's taken my arm away.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's the risk, right?
Yeah.
So some of these things are ego bruising. They're incredibly humbling. Look, I've gone through the peaks and troughs of this journey emotionally. Because when you're down on this journey, you're down. And you have to kind of draw from other sources. But I mean, case in point, I was very much on this, venture-backed, we're building a unicorn, growth at all costs sort of mindset, and hitting a wall and coming to terms with the impact of hitting a wall, having to scale back, my bold narrative and sort of tail between your legs, recalibrate. That's not easy. It's hard. But everyone, I think, has to go through it, whether it's as a founder, whether you're on the dating scene, on a personal level. I think you have to venture, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then readjust course. That's normal, but it shouldn't deter you from waking up the next day and trying again. Otherwise, again, then what's the point of all of this?
And what makes you just keep going? I mean, at some point, did you ever feel like, I'm done? Like, I just want to go back to corporate.
100%. Looking at my friends with envy.
Yeah.
I would just love to just have the 25th of the month roll around and not worry. They're like, come over for a bride. Everything's gravy. No, multiple times. I think I've been fortunate to have an ecosystem, a support ecosystem that serves as a mirror for me. Obviously, more immediately, my wife and helping me reflect, and friends, but even my closest investors, mentors, saying, brother, I think you're thinking about this in the wrong way, or you're looking this in the wrong way. You're being too hard on yourself. Think about it like this. The practice of leaning on your ecosystem as a mirror is incredibly helpful. I think that's probably the role that coaches play for top athletes. I say, like, what would a coach at his prime? What would a coach teach a Ronaldo or Messi? I think the biggest gift was serving as a mirror and allowing them, whichever athlete in any context, to question whether their approach is still correct or whether they need to recalibrate. So that's helped me through tough moments to then pick up, say, it's going to feel like a sack of potatoes to wake up today, but I think I see the bigger picture. Let me pick up the sack. Today's going to be hard, but if I don't do it, tomorrow won't be good.
Did you ever have any investors pull out to begin with?
Or pull out in the sense of have fatigue, or faith fatigue, which is fair, totally normal. Not everyone has the same, risk appetite. That's obviously hard because it's not just about capital. You build very personal relationships here. Along this journey, you make commitments and promises around what you expect to do, how you expect to deploy that capital and generate a return for those who believe in you. And so when that doesn't materialize, I mean, at least I don't know, how do you reconcile I had to go through the period of reconciling this, like a sense of guilt. But eventually you appreciate that that's the nature of the game. It's called the venture game for a reason. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Which means you're going to take shots, and some shots you'll miss. That the point was to take the shots.
And your co-founders, you say, is the Mexican still with you?
No.
He exited.
Yeah, so he exited. So we had a different version of the business that time. That version of the business was very focused on the Uber driver. When we reconfigured the business.
Uber driver or the Flex driver?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that was that was it.
Yeah.
Where the new sort of version of the business and the new product, the new platform, which we actually call the Reflex platform, that was an opportunity uniquely focused on South Africa. So it made both of my co-founders are South African as well.
Do they live that side as well?
No. One in Joburg, one in Cape Town. So we kind of have this like...
kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
At least the time zone is not so bad. Right?
No, yeah. Same time zone. Flights easy.
Yeah.
Easy-ish.
Yeah.
Still 11 hours, but...
Yeah.
Better,
and it's direct,
jet lag.
Because KLM flies direct both out of Joburg and Cape Town.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, hence it's not the wildest thing to say.
Yeah.
I need to be in Joburg for a week. It's not the most taxing thing. I'm not worried about jet lag.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's your relationship like with your co-founders? You just hit it off the bat. I mean, how did you even find them?
We were introduced, so my one co-founder we introduced through a shareholder that we had at the time. He was the one who exited his business to Retail Capital / Time Bank. And yeah, I mean, the chemistry sparked, to cut a long story short. And then through that, he then introduced a third. So that's Idan. Idan then introduced Howie. They went to school together. And so there's a history there.
Okay.
And I guess it clicked. The three of us, the chemistry worked.
Yeah. You didn't go to the same school?
No.
Okay.
Well, no, they went to the same school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think that was great because philosophically we shared a lot, but we had very different opinions.
Yeah.
About also because we had different perspectives.
Yeah.
Our CTO Howie and his technical perspective, my perspective, from sort of the mobility lens, Idan's from the fintech, SME lending lens. When you kind of put that in one pot,
fire.
Okay.
And I mean, they share your philosophy, you say, but they're not mobility guys.
Correct. Yeah. But that's why, like, it's a squad. It's like a squad on a pitch. Yeah. Someone's got to play defense. Someone's in goals. Someone's trying to put goals in the back of the net on the other side. And those roles and responsibilities may change depending on what the strategy is on the pitch on that day. But I think we've learned enough about each other to know who's most dangerous where.
And where they're dangerous. Where you dangerous?
So, look, obviously, I've been thinking about mobility for a very long time. And that gives me an unfair advantage because there aren't many variations of the model that I haven't thought about or tinkered with in some shape or form, but also learned which of these variations I'm best placed to attack. I also have a firm appreciation for technology in a non-technical way. So I think about products and product design and users and what's the right journey, while also having, I mean, classically I was trained in finance. So now I've kind of got this blend of like mobility, finance, product that allows me to think about the world differently to someone who just comes from one of those places. Howie, obviously, as our CTO, strong technical background and thinking about technology and how you build technology in different spaces, in fashion, in telco and communications, and now in mobility. Idan, similarly, like from restaurants to SMEs to, so I think it's all kind of, baked into our history that the spark clicked because the configuration somehow it blended in a way that was quite unique. That's what gives us the unfair advantage, if you will, versus if we were like, oh no, all of us have been in the automotive industry for the last 20 years. You would expect us all to think the same, which also, like, I think, like, there's benefits to that. If you're a much larger business, but like everyone's an auto expert, that makes sense.
Line,
exactly.
T-Mobile, you just
exactly, because that's just optimization, efficiency. Where if you're trying to rethink everything from first principles, it helps to not be an expert, to be a student. And I prefer, as I mentioned, just to be in the student arena. That's where I get the most energy.
Would you advise founders, businessmen, and I suppose even corporate to expand globally? Or at some point, like, what are those trigger points for you? And I don't know if it's a function of industry, a function of maturity curve, in that hockey stick. At what point should you go global?
Yeah, look, it's almost, how long is a piece of string to some extent, because it is different business by business, and it depends on what the sort of inherent strengths are, of the business. So there are a lot of case studies we can draw from. Discovery going to UK, that clicks. Discovery going to the US didn't click. What happened?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions you can ask. Discovery going to China clicked.
Story.
Yeah. So I think it depends. I definitely think that more businesses, whether corporate or smaller, should ask questions of which other markets they could test. I think there are inexpensive ways to test whether what you do resonates somewhere else. And if you get conviction through that process, and you should constantly be thinking about where to test next, where to get more data. If you get confirmation that there's an opportunity, in the startup world we refer to it as product promise fit. Everyone talks about product market fit. That's when you've built the product and the market's like, we love it, please, more. Product promise fit is, I've made the product, I've made a promise to you. Do you like this promise? Oh yeah, love it. People are signing up, just giving me their emails. I want to be on the waiting list. It's a very basic thing. It's like, wow, I've had like 100 people join the waiting list. I don't even have a product in this city. It's like, and actually, like that again, like with Uber, that's the way we thought about expansion. It'd always be, we're the eyeballs. So before you launch PE, before you launch Durban, it was like, we're only in Joburg, we're only in Cape Town. Why are all these people downloading the Uber app in Durban and we're getting all these eyeballs? The promise resonates before you even open up the market. I think like that's the right way to kind of think about. I mean, it's obviously very superficial, but at a very high level, that's the right way to think about expansion, in my mind, at least.
And do you think South African businessmen are thinking about it enough, or they're kind of just caught in a circle here and they're comfortable, as you said earlier?
It depends what game you play.
Yeah.
There are different games. If your game is, listen, I'm trying to build a business that pays consistent dividends on the JSE. I'm not trying to rock the boat. Just stay on I've got a good thing going here. No one's disappointed with the dividends I'm delivering. I think you might be optimizing for a different game. It comes down to the DNA. Like I can't even say that's just a JSE thing, but because look at Capitec. Are they slowing down? There's something in that DNA in the water that they drink in Stellenbosch.
Expanding. They still haven't technically expanded.
Sure.
I mean, they have, but haven't. There's I think they've got a business
Eastern
in
European,
Poland.
Exactly.
Yeah, they just increased their stake in, but they're still, pretty much.
100%.
And they see lots of opportunities to actually deepen their growth.
100%. But you can see the approach is still through this constant experimentation, tinkering. Now you've got Capitec Connect as the biggest MVNO in the country.
Massive.
Like,
I think over 1 million SIM cards.
Something. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that may not necessarily be the mindset of other competing banks. Are you willing to experiment and tinker to identify opportunities? It depends on what your incentives are. What's the sort of Charlie Munger, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes, or sort of thing. That deeply influences culture, I've seen inside organizations. At Uber, our incentives were very aligned to really just driving growth, getting more riders, getting more drivers, expanding the platform. in the early days, where now the incentives at Uber are about, because now it's listed, you need to be profitable. It's not about, we're not growth at all costs. We don't have 10 billion in cash waiting to be deployed. And it's just a different mindset, different incentives. But yeah.
Tinashe, keep growing, stay hungry, keep learning, be a student of life and a student of the world. And it's been a great pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks.
Really been a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thanks a lot, Teddy. I really appreciate you creating this space to share, I guess, these pieces, have this conversation and probe in the way we did. I think I'm excited to see all the other stories that have yet to be told on this platform. So
I'm also excited to have a conversation with them.
Yeah. Exciting times.
And how many years away from being a unicorn? Not a Mzansi Unicorn. That's a rand billionaire. That's nothing.
Look, I think we have big ambitions. We just say we're happy to build with brick and mortar, not timber. So I think we want to do the right things.
Happy to build with brick and mortar. You just coming with quotes today. Honestly, brick and mortar, not timber. I like that. I must note it down.
Takes a little longer.
Yeah.
But you built to last.
Okay. Tinashe, it's been great having you. And thank you for joining us on the show. Really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure, Teddy.
Yeah. And I wish you all the best there.
Thank you,
Keep
sir.
growing, stay hungry. And what did they say? Stay foolish as well.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
Thanks, Teddy.
Awesome. Thank you for watching today's episode. Proudly sponsored by Metstone, which is a boutique advisory firm. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And comment again. See you next time. Chop chop.